Hey everybody, welcome back to the Elegant Oxford. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to mirror shine a pair of shoes with broguing or a toe medallion. I still get this question all the time in messages and in emails, so I wanted to make a video guide to help those who are having trouble with this particular style of shoe. Now, shining a pair of shoes with a toe medallion or with broguing can be more difficult. In fact, it can be a nightmare, and there are a couple of issues people run into. The most common is that they're getting wax inside of the brogues. So in order to create the mirror shine, they have to really glissage and get that wax to really harden. But the broguing gets in the way, so a lot of wax gets inside, and it really looks ugly and unsightly. The other issue that I'm running into a lot in messages is that due to the exposed leather, the broguing, the holes, people are getting the infamous dry spot. And I've already covered that in a previous video, but basically the moisture is just getting in much quicker. The solvent in the wax can actually cause the same issue to arise. So you just have to be a little bit more careful, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Since these toes have burnishing here at the front and in other areas of the shoe, and I want to maintain these lighter brown areas, I don't want to use black or dark brown. That's going to just cover everything with a black or a dark brown mirror shine, and I'll lose this light area. So to remedy that, I'm going to be using light brown wax so that I can keep this lighter area maintained. So first, get some wax on your finger and just start to rub it in. And avoid the brogues. Don't get too much wax in here. Use less than you think at a time. So just get your finger in the wax and then just start to go over the area gently. Make sure to get the areas down by the welt. That's really important. If you don't, your mirror shine's really never going to be as shiny as it could be. And then kind of spread it over the broguing area, which is the problem area, over and over. Now this part is going to take a little longer than usual, but it's really necessary to shine a shoe with a medallion. If not, things can get messy and you'll start to get problems. So just continue this process over and over and be patient and build up. I don't want to go overboard, but I'd say 10 to 15 layers before you start shining. Now don't press too hard. I mean, it's kind of common sense, but just keep adding layers and make sure that the wax is spread evenly across the entire toe cap. Don't leave areas to gunk up, and don't let it all sit in one place. Just keep going back and forth, adding more wax when you need. There we go. Just back and forth. This is probably the part that takes the longest. You just got to be patient. See, you got some wax right there. Just rubbing it in, just like that. Let's discuss the first issue people run into. I'm just going to try to purposefully fill this area with wax. Got to really go overboard, because I see it quite commonly. There you go. You'll get something like this, and it happens not on purpose. Obviously, a lot of shiners who are just learning the process end up with this, and they're unsure what to do. A lot of people just run to toothpicks. I just use a little handheld brush. You can see it here. It's by Saphir. It's got really stiff bristles, and what you do is you just use the corners there and just tap them. Just tap, 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 tap. There we go. And it's out. And what you do is you just start spreading it again with your fingers. There's still a little more in there, so I'm just going to tap again. Tap, 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 tap. There we go. Try different angles, and it's all out, nice and quick, right? And you just grab a little bit more wax, and you just smooth it out. You spread it out evenly, and you're good to go. I also like this spreading method first, because if you've added a patina and you don't add layers first and you go straight into using a cloth around your fingers, it might be too much friction and it might start to pull off some of the leather dye. So this kind of creates a lubricating barrier before the shine begins, and it covers the patina with some wax layers so that when you start to shine, none of the dye is removed. So that's kind of where I started to use this method when I started adding patinas to shoes, and I started to remove a lot of the wax during the mirror shine. So this kind of preps it and gets everything ready for the water and the rest of that stuff. So that can be pretty ugly. So lay those layers down first, especially if you have a patina or you have exposed holes. Some of the water might get in a lot faster than you might think. So prep the area first, and I always found that's helped me the most. Once your wax layers are done and they're set, we're going to start the actual mirror shine. Now, I've covered this in other videos, but I want to clear up some misconceptions. I've already seen them in the comment section. I recommend a water rubbing alcohol solution, about 50-50, but the solution isn't to be used at every step of the shine. It's just used preliminarily to start off the shine because the wax can get a little gunked up. So the rubbing alcohol and the water just starts the process, and then after, you're going to be using wax and water and going back to the solution only when you get a little bit of a gunk up or you're getting an area that's not as smooth as you'd like it. So don't use it for every step of the way. That can start to actually ruin your shine. So get your chamois, and then you're going to wet your fingers like that so they're wet, and then dab some off. You don't want it to be too wet. We're trying to avoid those issues that I talked about. And you're going to start to go over the area. Okay? This is going to start the process off. And then you're going to touch your wax, get a little bit of wax, just a tiny bit. You're going to start to go back and forth. Okay? Like always, like I've explained in my other videos, just back and forth. You're going to get a little tiny drop of water. We're going to start going back and forth. And every shoe is different. Some shoes mirror shine super quickly. Others are just nightmare pairs and they take a very long time. Touch the wax again. Back and forth. With soft pressure, like you're shining an egg and you don't want the shell to crack. Now, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we're already getting a shine. And that's it. That's the beginning of the mirror shine. And you're just going to keep going back and forth, adding water and wax until you get that perfect gloss. Adding more wax. And then you're going lightly, okay, just gently, because you don't want to start pulling off wax. And then you lubricate the process with a water drop so that the wax shines and it doesn't get pulled off by this abrasive cotton rag. Because no matter how soft it is, it's not softer than wax. So you want the wax to harden. Drop, and we're off. So as you begin to shine and your shine builds up and it looks better and better, you might actually run into a pretty common issue. Let's see if I can get it here. Right there. You might get some white spots where the mirror shine hasn't really glazed over well, and where you might actually have some moisture trapped inside the pores. It's a pretty common issue. It still happens to me. I remedy it by using a heat gun or a hair dryer, but if you have neither, you can actually use a Bic lighter. And I gotta be honest, this is probably a method I do not recommend for beginners. If you watch Bob Powers, he actually showcased this in an older video, but it's really good for spot areas, but you gotta be really careful because I don't want you burning your shoes and then blaming me after. Let's just try it out, okay? So, turn on the light. Real quick, just whoop, 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 whoop. Kind of just going quickly, melting down that wax. There we go. Little haze up a tiny bit. But that haze will just buff really nicely and you'll get a better mirror shine. So it's just really quickly, just to kind of get rid of those white spots so you can keep going and your mirror shine can look its best. I don't recommend this for everybody, okay? See, it's just fogged up a little bit right here. And once you start adding water and wax again, it'll shine perfectly. Okay, so that's just a little issue you might run into, and it happens a lot when you don't have an area. When you have an area with broguing, sometimes the shine is just harder to do since you're avoiding these holes, so it can definitely happen. Now, as I've explained in my other videos, you can definitely get amazing shine in one sit down, but to get a truly perfect shine, I think it really requires multiple days of shining. So you shine for 20 minutes, and then you wait one day, let the wax settle, let the solvents evaporate, and then you start to shine again for another 10-15, and you do that for 2 or 3 days, and then on the last day, you'll really get an impressive shine with all the areas completely covered and glossed over. So now I'm going to teach you how to get the final high shine. I think a lot of people get to this point, they have the wax all laid down, but they just can't get those tiny micro lines to buff out. It just doesn't look glass-like. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. What you're going to want to do for the final shine is get your shine cloth. This is the most important part. Find a clean area. So right here, one that without any wax on it. And wrap it around your hand. Okay. Make sure it's nice and tight. Then you're going to add the water alcohol solution. So kind of like you're shining for the first time. Okay, just wet the area down a little bit and then dab it off so it's not too wet. And you're going to use just a tiny bit of wax. You're not really starting the process over, you're just doing the final shine. Okay, so you're going to start to buff, and the water alcohol solution is going to break down those micro lines and micro scratches so that it looks perfectly shine. And you just touch the wax, just touch it. You'll barely see any on your cloth and just start to go back and forth. But this time, since it's already a glass-like surface, you can put a little bit more pressure than last time, and you need just more friction and heat so that everything just heats up and it really looks glass-like and perfect. Okay, so add a little bit more pressure than you think. Let's get a little bit of a drop of water right here, tiny bit, and then just go harder than you think. Okay, not hard enough where you break the wax, but harder than you would do when you were normally shining, and that's really just to buff everything out. Kind of like you're waxing a car, if you've ever done that. Okay, back and forth. If you have to touch the wax, make sure it's barely even touching. Back and forth. Okay. So you can see the shine just looks perfect. Okay. All right. We're set to go. Your brogued shoe is shined and ready to wear. So to recount, remember, lay down your wax first with your fingers for better control, and focus on the sides and areas without broguing first. Using an applicator or a rag to lay down your wax can make the process much harder. When you get to the holes, use less wax than you think and spread it all evenly. If you do get wax in the medallion, use a stiff brush and dab gently at different angles and clear it out. Using a toothpick or a similar item to get the wax out individually will take too much time. If needed, use gentle heat from a hairdryer to melt down stubborn wax or to get to areas your fingers cannot reach. Remember to be patient and realize that medallions make the process a little harder, so take your time and spread the shine out so solvents evaporate and the shine builds up to truly impressive levels.